Welcome to Ozzie Nomads. This is our experience of living in Istanbul for nearly 3 weeks. We stayed in one of the less known areas, and this street was not far from our apartment, and this is how we got ourselves up to Taksim Square. Everybody goes to Taksim Square. It's a great big square. It's got some mosques and some shopping. There were some markets there some days when we went up there, which was nice. Istanbul, of course, is famous for the Blue Mosque. It is really a spectacular mosque. We just caught public transport eventually. The public transport system in Istanbul is probably not as easy as most cities that we've been to, but it is very, very cheap. And we found that usually we'd have to get 2 buses to go anywhere that we wanted to go. So the Blue Mosque is still free to enter, and when you do go into the mosque, you must take off your shoes, and women must cover their hair, which is why I've got my hoodie on. So the Blue Mosque is very close to Hagia Sophia. We arrived in Istanbul um, early to mid-January in 2024, and on the 15th of January the Hagia Sophia brought in a fee for tourists of €25 to go inside. It used to be free, so at €25 we felt it was a little bit steep, so we didn't end up going into Hagia Sophia. But the area around the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia is just beautiful, so it was really lovely walking around. Again, we just took public transport to get there. We did a cruise on the Bosphorus. When we were trying to get into Hagia Sophia, we went to the Hagia Sophia History Museum, which was €25, and the ticket said that it included entry to Hagia Sophia, but that had changed on the 15th of January. So when I inquired, to keep us happy, and I thought it was great customer service, we were offered a free cruise on the Bosphorus, which we wouldn't have done if we'd had to pay for it. It was a nice trip. Got to see Istanbul from a different perspective, and we quite enjoyed the day, even though it was pretty miserable weather. We saw dolphins in the bay. That was an extra treat, we thought. So the cruise takes about 2 hours, and we got dropped back to our bus stop. One of the famous streets is this one, Istiklal Street. It's interesting to walk up and down, high-end shopping, and lots and lots of people. There's some really nice side streets and interesting things to see off this street, so it's worth having a few hours to wander around, get a little bit lost, and find some of the interesting side streets. Another highlight is the Dolmabahce Palace, and sadly you're not allowed to take photos or do any filming inside, but it is just spectacular. The main meeting hall in there is just beautiful. Another highlight of Istanbul everybody goes to is the Grand Bazaar. The streets around the outside of the Grand Bazaar are just insane. We were there in January when tourist numbers were low, but it was really, really crowded. But inside the Grand Bazaar, which is just a huge maze of shops, high-end shops, the crowds were really quite low, but it is very pretty inside, so it's certainly worth having a look around. Not far from Istiklal Street is the Galata Tower. These streets are just gorgeous to walk around, the buildings. The tower itself, you can go up it, but we didn't opt to pay to go up the tower. we just enjoyed walking around the streets and getting a feel for this part of Istanbul. Something that we also did was we managed to get across to the Asian side of Istanbul. Thoroughly recommended. It's got a different vibe. The food offerings are amazing. Next time we go back, that's where we'll stay. We'll stay on the Asian side rather than on the European side of Istanbul. We loved Istanbul. We felt safe, and one day we definitely plan on going back.